Few requisites, yes. The point I wanted to mention over here is that we have a group of civil servants. I'm one of them. And we are supposed to man all posts in the federal and the state governments. And the moment we understand a job, we're shifted. So we move from agriculture to industry to defense, from the federal government to a local government to education. And that's our career path. So what happens is that the reformers are very often those in the districts. As the district administrators, all of us have been district administrators and magistrates. And what happens over here is a district officer takes a tremendous initiative. He's shifted. And his successor is a one-point program, which is to make sure that the system doesn't work, that he makes his own innovation for which he's remembered. So the ownership is not there. The question then is, how do you transfer ownership? Obviously, you need to have a reformer who makes himself totally dispensable, to let the stakeholders take over the reform and disappear from the scene very unobtrusively. If he does that, it has a chance of succeeding. And more often than not, we've seen reforms just not sustaining because the individual driven and to a large extent ego driven. And this is a bit of a problem. Our reformers have been remarkable people, but not all of them are saints. One is facing an inquiry for corruption, corrupt activities. Another one is charged of sexual harassment in the workplace. But whatever it is, the tendency, of course, is here. Now, political support is not always forthcoming because there's a very high threat perception. And when you talk about e-governance, you talk about the empire striking back. And yet, we find that this isn't always the case because politicians tend to be far smarter than our civil servants. They have their feet on the ground planted more firmly than ours are. And if the public like a particular reform, obviously they have to take the credit for it, which is their right. And support, therefore, has been forthcoming in many cases. The first case, which I'm citing over here, is land records. I'll let the slide speak for itself, if it's visible. I presume it is? Okay. The second case is e-service centers. The question here is that the middlemen and the touts, again, have increasingly becoming quite e-savvy. So you do have, in fact, them updating their own methods of seeking rent, and quite often they're able to beat the system. But by and large, it has made a lot of difference. And the third one is about the rail bookings. And here I'd like to flag just an issue or two after you've had a look at this slide. You see, what's happened over here, and you're all familiar with this, is that human behavior can be modified by technology. And here you have people who were thoroughly corrupt and had a very, in a sense, a low self-esteem. Even the customers did. When we shifted all these clerks, the system was manual, tempers ran very high, the touts were all around, and when they moved into air conditioning surroundings, their behavior changed. There was no queue jumping, and we Indians are pretty good at queue jumping. There was none because they were given numbers, and then they learned not to spit on the walls or to shout at the officials in the counter, and the officials actually became a little more polite. And their self-esteem went up because they felt they'd become high-tech officials. They felt that they were entitled to some respect, and their behavior changed quite a bit. Quite a few of them actually stopped seeking rent. It's surprising, but it happened. And they felt comfortable with themselves. This is the earliest reform, which is done in the 80s. The pitfalls, of course, are here, and they do speak for themselves. There is a sense of natural regression. And therefore, when you do make a technological change, you have to use drastic methods. When the electric typewriters came, we had to seize all the manual typewriters. And when the PCs came, then we had to lock up the electrical typewriters. So ultimately, the necessity is the mother of virtue, and they do that. The other thing is public awareness. It's increasing. We have an information revolution in the country, and people are increasingly calling us to account. So just to sum up, I just say that there is a process. There could be a certain dialectic in a democratic process. Public awareness is gradually going to keep us honest. Technology has made a difference. It has affected mindsets, and gradually the customers and the public have started demanding better service. And I think that's the most encouraging thing. There are huge pitfalls, of course, but we have a long way to go, but we're getting there. Thank you very much. I'll field questions when my turns come. Thank you.
Thank you.